Welcome to the Market Mystics podcast, where we discuss what's happening in the cryptosphere and trading on earth as it is in heaven. Buckle up and huddle on while we dive in and get weird. Here are your hosts, Joshua and Kim.
Hey everybody, and welcome to another wonderful Monday with the Market Mystics.
Welcome everybody.
Today we are going to dive in a little bit more in what's going on with crypto right now, how it's affecting the world around us, some things that have been in the news that are they're just noteworthy to kind of bring up and discuss, I guess.
Absolutely. Let's start with a quick update on the markets. In the last, how many days? 2 days? I think in the last 2 days
I would say 2 days, yeah.
We have seen the entire market, maybe sparing a few, go way up. It has been major increase. I'm looking at the Bitcoin chart because that's what we talk about most of the time, and it's a good indicator of kind of where the rest of the market goes as well. It's up 5.25% in the last 24 hours. It's up 16.1% in the last 7 days, and about the same for 30 days. So everything is green with that. And it looks like things are really starting to turn a corner, hopefully, because we saw the big dip last week right after Russia invaded Ukraine. And we talked about that on our last episode. And from what I have been reading, people are a bit more hopeful for the crypto market stabilizing, even when the stock market is not behaving the same way.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting to watch these different markets and see how they respond to different world events. And sometimes you can put your thinking cap on and figure out why it is moving that way. Sometimes it doesn't really make sense why it's moving certain directions. But we do know that the majority of the markets move because of emotions first, and then sometimes have corrections or continued moves based on when more information comes out about those things. And I think the knee-jerk reaction with the Russia-Ukraine was, this is going to be a disruption in the global financial system. So everybody's kind of pulling out to whatever safe haven they think exists. And now we're seeing crypto being used in both Russia and Ukraine, and even in the midst of some fiat struggles, I guess.
Yeah.
And so maybe that is some of the reason for the continued growth. I'll be interested to see what it does from here, especially Bitcoin. I'm looking at the 30-day chart, and we've tested 45,000 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times maybe in the past 30 days, and just haven't been able to break through that. So we've sort of been in this up and down and up and down and up and down in between, like 35 and 45, which is a pretty big swing. I mean, that's a pretty good moves up and down. And just from yesterday to today, we're looking at, like we were, you just mentioned, like 15 something percent or 15 or 16% in a couple days. Those are pretty sizable swings back and forth.
Absolutely. And the price is sitting just over 44 right now, and still on an upward trend at the moment. I'm looking at a 24-hour chart, and it'll go up and down throughout the day. But right now, still on an upward, what it looks like upward. So it might test 45 again today, even. We'll see how that
Yeah.
goes. Okay, so you mentioned the connection, I guess I did too, with the Russia-Ukraine thing and cryptocurrency being used. I think this is something that's notable and unlike anything that's ever happened in any other kind of conflict at least global conflict that we've heard about or has been noteworthy enough to mention. But Bitcoin, Ethereum, other altcoins have been used even in just the last week on both sides of this conflict in varying ways. And so we just this is what we've been seeing in a lot of the news surrounding coins, is a lot about this conflict. And so we kind of just want to talk about a little bit of what's going on from the US, and its involvement, what's happening in each place individually. So Russia and Ukraine, how is cryptocurrency being used or not used? And really globally, what this is looking like. Let's start with the US. So I read an article today that honestly, I wasn't thrilled about. I'll tell you the headline: US Treasury set to crack down on crypto transactions with Russian entities. Which, fine, I know that the US has put sanctions in place to stop doing business with Russian entities and everything. But this is going into OFAC, which is the Office of Foreign Asset Control. And this is the division of the government that really gives the directives on who Americans can and can't do business with. But this is taking it a step further, in my opinion, in saying that US citizens can't transact even cryptocurrency or any other kind of asset, anything having to do with anything Russian. And this is even person to person, not necessarily person to government. And it just is a bit bizarre to me. I'll just say this about the whole conflict: there's something innate in me that feels like something's a little off with what we've been told this is all about. I don't know 100% what it is, but there's something that's missing. Like, I just feel like there's a missing piece we're not being told about that could actually shine truth on the whole situation. But for whatever reason, we're being told something else. And again, I can't tell you this is a lie and this is fact and this is a lie and this is fact. There's just something that doesn't feel right. You know what I
Mm.
mean?
Yeah, no, I certainly do. And one of the things you mentioned were the sanctions, both in the normal fiat world and within crypto. And the goal of that is to make it harder for a government or an entity to transact, to do business, so that they have a harder time continuing in the conflict.
Right.
But one of the things we talked about was how really the greatest impact that tends to have, depending on how the sanctions are set up, it actually impacts the people, the individuals who probably are not really involved in what's going on any
Right.
more than you or I are. Like, this
Right.
really isn't, or this really isn't directly involving the US and what's going on, but we seem to be pretty involved in how, or pretty involved in the discussion of how it should be handled.
Mhm.
Um, But sanctions tend to really impact, or at least this type of sanction tends to really impact the individual person who's just trying to feed their family, live their life, and may or may not be directly related to the government at all. And one of the reasons that I say that is there's a quote from the Ukrainian vice president where he says it's crucial to freeze not only the crypto addresses linked to the Russian politicians, but also to sabotage ordinary users. And so their goal really is to limit any money flowing in or out of Russia, whether that's, the government or the everyday person. And that to me just really speaks to like what you said of there's something going on that we don't understand that's not being told in our normal outlets. There's something that there's truth to be discovered here.
Mhm. Absolutely. Uh, one of the one of the interesting things that I see happening um, with all of this is the use of crypto. So you were just talking about the vice president of Ukraine saying this, and I will say he has called for crypto exchanges, or actually, I'm sorry, this is the vice prime minister calls for crypto exchanges to ban Russian users. And I think this is bold and this is telling of the crypto community. And I would say take note over this, especially given we're not in an episode on our decentralized series, but take note about decentralization with this. Even these exchanges who are not essentially decentralized, but are trading decentralized assets, I would say.
Mhm.
Even these exchanges are saying no to this. They say they will comply with any kind of international move and directive that is being directed at them, but they will not shut down users' accounts just because a government from another country has asked them to do so, even if they're
Right.
in conflict. And the reason I say I think this is telling is because number one country is trying to get private entities to side with them to shut down individuals, okay, a massive amount of individuals' ability to have access to their assets.
Mm.
But also, I think it's very telling of, I mean, there are things that are being frozen that we do know currently. The SWIFT system was just frozen, which is the international, I believe it's the credit card system that allows the transfer of currency by credit card, right? This is what SWIFT is essentially.
It's just interbank.
Okay,
So
interbank. I'm sorry.
yeah, not necessarily credit cards, but it's like
Digital.
any international banks that are part of this system can transfer money, or their users can transfer money between people.
Okay, so that's been shut down for Russia, which, as we've talked about before, so much of the world's currency at this point is digital. It may not
Yeah.
be cryptocurrency, but it is digital. It's not physical fiat money in people's hands. So that's already been shut down, and people are turning to, I mean, just even everyday people are turning to cryptocurrency to be able to still provide for their families, like you were saying. On the other side, you have Ukraine, who has been receiving donations via
Right.
cryptocurrency. So last tally that I saw, it was about $20 million worth of Bitcoin, Ethereum, and I believe Polkadot, or maybe it was USDT. I think it was USDT that have been donated to help fund the military in Ukraine. for this conflict. And the government has tweeted out their wallet address to receive Bitcoin. They're saying they're now going to accept Polkadot, and other altcoins are coming down the pike.
Hmm.
This is revolutionary.
Truly is.
Have you ever heard of any kind of conflict like this and people transferring their Apple stocks to people, like to governments to help?
Right.
You know what I mean?
It's on an international level as well. Like, I mean, most of these donations, from what I understand, didn't come from the Ukraine citizens.
Right.
They came from outside sources who are um, who are helping the cause that they feel they want to stand behind.
Right. That's wild. Maybe I'm uninformed, and that's quite possible. And it wouldn't be the first time. But I've not heard of other conflicts like this where there are private entities transferring money of any sort to help in a conflict like this. That doesn't mean it's never happened before, but this is public and this is widely known, and they're asking for more donations. And I find it super interesting that they're not asking for their own currency. They're not asking for the US dollar, which is currently the standard by which the whole world weighs their economies. But they're asking for the cryptocurrency. And again, there's something, I don't know what it is. I can't put my finger on it, but there's something to this.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not saying it has to be nefarious, but there's something that we're not hearing about with this. I don't know. I don't know what it is.
No, I completely agree. One of the things I'm encouraged by it, though, because of my love of crypto and the
Mm,
value that I see it in potentially creating community and just availability of resources for people, is I think you are seeing that happen to some extent. I mean, yes, you're seeing the government asking people to send them crypto to finance the war, but in Russia, where essentially it's almost impossible for them to transact um, with one another. I saw an article about how people who are fleeing Russia
mhm,
are looking to put their finances into crypto, um, so that whenever they get to where they're going, they'll be able to transfer them back into whatever local fiat would be accessible where they are, because
mhm.
the ruble has been going down in value because of the conflict and the sanctions and things. And so it's been a tool that has never existed for refugees before,
Mhm.
where they can put everything they have into this digital asset, go wherever they want, and then transact in the local fiat currency through that. And that to me is kind of mind blowing. Like, just the power that it's creating, the accessibility to finances that have just not been there during war times before.
Right.
It's truly a powerful thing. And yes, I completely agree that there's something there's some truth that we're not quite seeing with everything that's going on, especially on the governmental levels of things.
Mm,
But on the individual levels of things, there's such a beauty in what Bitcoin has been able to provide for those people.
absolutely. It is almost as though Bitcoin is making his debut as this accessible currency that he was made to be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's still been a lot of even in the last month with all the Super Bowl ads and everything, there's still been a lot of naysayers and people who are very anti, but you're starting to see the tide shift a bit with that, because at this point, he's becoming far more stable and accessible than really other government currencies have been. I mean, even the US dollar, if a Russian was holding US dollar digitally and went somewhere else, yeah, they would be able to spend it probably. But the likelihood of that being the case is very slim, whereas Bitcoin is accessible to anyone in any country.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is the time that he's taken the stage and saying, hey, look, I really am for the people. I really am here. I think the beauty of Bitcoin, I keep saying him, and it's because you can listen to some of our past episodes. I believe Bitcoin is a being in the heavenly realms. You can think it's weird, whatever, go seek the Father about it. But I really think that he is for the people. And the reason Bitcoin is around is not to serve governments. It is really to serve the people. And I think this is where these governments are going to get into trouble when they continue serving only themselves and are no longer serving the people. Then the thing that is there to wholeheartedly serve the people is maybe going to take precedence. You know what I mean?
Mm.
It seems like a shift is coming. Obviously, finances globally are shifting anyway. Just the emergence of cryptocurrency has sent huge waves. People are talking about it, whether good or bad. People have been talking about it for years, but right now could be a turning point.
I think you're right. There's something about it being used on this global scale and this very public arena that I think is thrusting Bitcoin and crypto into the spotlight and really shedding light on what it is and what it's capable of doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And as much as you could argue it being used on one side or the other, it's good or bad or neutral, it's interesting to see it being used on both sides to help people.
Mm.
You know what I mean? I mean, it's not like, yes, okay, the argument is out there as well that it could be used in nefarious ways.
Sure.
It could be used to be bypassing governments and sanctions and safety nets and laws and whatever for bad purposes. But to be honest, every currency is. You
That's
think
what
the
I was
US
just gonna
dollar hasn't
say.
been exchanged for something horrible? It has. It's physically used for illegal actions. You know what I mean? And so if you think that everything else is immune to that, I would say you need to take another look. But what Bitcoin's opening up and what cryptocurrency, I talk about Bitcoin because I think that Bitcoin's the leader of it all. And I think all of these other coins have their purposes and their values as well, but Bitcoin's kind of leading the pack. And it's important to kind of watch what Bitcoin's doing and the direction in which it's going, because I think it's telling.
No, I completely agree that, we often say Bitcoin when we're referring to the whole crypto space, but there is just something even outside of the spirit where we'll see things where Bitcoin is just recognized as the standard by which crypto is measured.
Right.
And so, it's everybody looks to, okay, well, what is Bitcoin doing? And not necessarily to what are all these other things doing. Um, so yeah, I'm interested to see how this all plays out. You're right in the fact that sure, has crypto been used for nefarious things? Yes. But has every other fiat in the world also been used for those same things? Yes. Illegal things have been going on, or just corrupt things have been going on, you know, since long before fiat was ever even a thing. And so, it's not necessarily a cash is good or bad, or fiat is good or bad, or crypto is good or bad. It's really the people whose hands they are in and who's using them, of how it's being used. Uh, so, we'll. I'm interested to see how the 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 things going on around the world impact crypto, and continue to bring it more, what I'm going to call, legitimacy.
Yeah,
Like, it's now being seen as a more legitimate, viable tool and financial instrument than it's ever been seen before.
absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Well, I think that's it for our Tuesday episode.
Yeah, I said Monday earlier, but
You did.
that's because we normally record on Mondays, but I was out of town yesterday, so I just got confused.
That's okay. So, but I think that's all we have for today. I'm sure
Right.
we'll have more on Thursday. We'll see you back then. Um, if you listen to this, if you follow us on any kind of social media, have any questions or comments, please feel free to reach out. But otherwise, we will see you next time.
See you guys.
Thank you for listening. Join us every Monday and Thursday as we discuss trading on earth as it is in heaven. If you want to connect further, follow us on social media at market.mystics for Instagram and TikTok, and search for Market Mystics on YouTube and Facebook. If you still need more, follow the link on Facebook to book a coaching appointment. Until next time, see ya.